Buff City, Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian. Drew, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, you guys. How are you?
What's up?
Hey, doing well, thanks. Hey, we got news yesterday that a longtime Tennessee State men's basketball joining the staff of Thomas Isalo and the Memphis Grizzlies. And as it turns out, that was just the start of off-season business for the Grizzlies, sounds like.
Yeah, so Brian Collins, obviously a good addition to the staff here, a guy that played internationally with Tomas Isalo, and I think that connection paid dividends there. And so now, they've brought him in to be a player development coach this year. And then free agency was crazy, man. It was the first hour and 8 minutes of free agency. Shams from ESPN tweeted 8 different times about the Memphis Grizzlies. So I think they had their plan together. A lot of it pretty unsurprising if you follow the team closely, but obviously a lot of good news for the Memphis Grizzlies for sure.
One, Drew, we're glad to have you on so that you can straighten us out on the pronunciation of the new coach's name, Isalo.
I still struggle with it. Tomas Isalo. E as in the letter. Yes.
Well, and the thing about it is those two I's right at the start really kind of throw you. So
they do. It took me a long time. I've had to ask him several times how to pronounce his name.
You might just have to tape it one time, and so you can like play it back or something. But yeah, it's not Smith and it's not Jenkins either. Yeah, and I believe we now have John with us, John Glennon from the Nashville Post, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. JG, what's up?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
We're doing well, man. Just kind of talking about the Preds offseason here a little bit, following up the weekend's trade to acquire. Tell me something. I'm not the biggest hockey aficionado there is, but 6'6", 245 on skates. How big is that, John? Relative to?
That's one of the biggest predators you will have probably in franchise history. You pop that guy up on skates, and you're not too far off from 7 feet tall as he's rolling around out there. And then when you add the other player, the guy they signed in free agency, Nick Perbix, is not a small man at about 6'4", 206 pounds too. So, a Predators defense that last year was probably a little on the smaller side for the most part, all of a sudden at least has a little more size and a little more bite, a little more snarl to it this year.
You feel like that's by design?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. Barry Trotz, GM, yesterday talked about how sort of all too often last year, this was a team that one of the things they didn't do enough of was block shots. That's one thing that these guys are not afraid of. They'll step in front of pucks. They will also, to use a phrase that Barry Trotz liked, they're pretty good at clearing the porch, if you will, which means keeping guys out of the crease, keeping guys away from their goaltender, pushing guys aside when it's necessary. So I think that'll help in that regard. And as I say, all of a sudden a defense that for the most part, tended kind of skewed towards smaller last year. Much different scene this time around.
John, with that being said, to that point, is this a small mimic of what the Florida Panthers have kind of done, like really being aggressive on that forecheck and really kind of putting the pressure on you defensively? Because we've seen the offensive defensive capabilities of these guys and Yossi and what he can do, but it seems like they are going for the beef this year.
Yeah, and I think what they ideally want is sort of a mixture. The two new guys are sort of the beefcake types, if you will, and they've also got a couple others sort of in the depth chart there, and guy like Andreas Englund who great fighter we saw last year, one of the best Swedish fighters I've ever seen, kind of an unusual phrase. And Jordan Osterley has some size too. Got another guy they picked up on waivers last year. But, I think what Barry Trotz looked at with this team, and I think as you guys were talking about as I jumped on this year, honestly, you could go both ways during this offseason. You could say we were terrible offensively, we got to get better offensively. Or you could say we were terrible defensively, we got to get better defensively. And I think it's easier to get better defensively. And Barry Trotz talked about the fact that, for a lot of years, his teams were this way. Most of the Barry Trotz teams didn't have a whole lot of offensive talent, but got by and were pretty successful playing defense first hockey. And I don't think they'll go to that extreme this time around. But, I think what they see, what they need, what they want is more defensive commitment from this team, whether it's the forwards, whether it's the D-men also. So I think, the Preds are saying, hey, look, we weren't able to necessarily get that much coveted center that we really need. There were precious few available in the free agent market. And other than that, you really, it's hard to trade for a really good center. It takes time to build some up through the ranks as well. So really weren't able to upgrade there. So as a result, how does he think this team is better? And how does the team look better now? Well, the hope is that it's going to be a better defensive team. And by making the defense better, that keeps you in games more often. And even if you don't score a ton of goals, you're automatically more competitive that way.
Donnell Suggs, editor-in-chief of the Atlanta Voice, joins us here on Main Street Sports today, who was in the park for all three of those miserable outings over the weekend. Donnell, what's up?
Hey, guys, how you doing? Listen, I was there for the last 2 weeks every day. So not only those three, but a lot more losses than that.
Man, not what anybody in Braves country has gotten used to here over the last little bit.
You couldn't have thought that a team that was 11 or 12 games under 500 would come into Atlanta and win 3 in a row. I don't believe the Orioles have swept anyone this season. They won series, but I don't think they swept anyone this season. I had to double check that last night. I thought I saw that, but I have to double check it again. But they won these 3, and it's just wow. Because they did it in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, and that's what you come away with. Wow. I mean, the answers are. I mean, I guess if they had them, they do something about it. But like you said, they did it in a lot of different ways. I mean, they lost 9-6 in extras on Saturday. They lost a close one Friday, 3-2, and they can score and not win. They can not score and not win. It's there's been a lot of pressure put on this pitching rotation and on the pitching staff as a whole because of the struggles to score. And then when they do finally score, they can't get anybody stopped. I mean, it's all over the place.
The Braves used 7 pitchers on Saturday. I understand it was a bullpen game, but 7 pitchers in one game is a lot. You don't really want to use 7. You want to go about 3 deep and maybe 4 to close. They used 7. So now you come into Sunday needing relief, and you got some, but for Grant Holmes, who really pitched really well. The guy's tough. He'll have that one bad inning and then shut it down. But unfortunately, the 2 runs were enough to win a game, which normally wouldn't be the case with a lineup like the Braves. They can get, guys, you would think so. But this season, they've left a ton of guys on base.
Yeah, when they say bullpen game, they don't necessarily mean you have to use the entire bullpen.
Right?
That's what I was thinking.
Exactly. I didn't mean the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We've been a few of you guys okay, but you're right, Donnell. And I mean, man, we've talked about it. The way they kind of find different ways to lose. That's the part that even as a neutral fan, it's maddening because it's like whack-a-mole. I've used this analogy multiple times. Just when you think you've kind of got something figured out, something else kind of breaks.
You got a lineup that scores a lot. Whoa, we scored, okay, good. 8 runs. That's great. That same lineup leaves 8 guys on base the next day. or you move Michael off the lineup, Michael Harris out the lineup, or you take Ozzie and move Ozzie down one, or you put Jericho Profar in lead off to give Acuna a rest. It doesn't matter. Bring Acuna in as a pinch hitter. There's a runner on base. He strikes out. It's like Snitker, when he comes into the post game, and he'll have one of these numbers going, and he'll take our questions. But the fact of the matter is, what can he do? What can he do? I'm not sure what else he can do. It feels like,
Mo.
you know.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Donnell. And I mean, I've asked you this a couple weeks ago, and I mean, the only thing to me that seems like that is, even if you inject a jolt into this team, there's only so much time and only so many games you can make up. But it feels like the buzzards are somewhat circling. It feels like the only real move you can make is letting someone go. Not sure who, but it feels like this is where we enter into the realm of pro sports where somebody's got to pay for this.
And you're getting those questions every now and again from the press, not from me, but from others saying, is it time to sell? Is it time to sell? And Snicker's like, he's not that kind of guy. He's old school. He's like, no, we're fine. It's only the All-Star break. I don't know nothing about selling. All I know is about getting these guys prepared to play. And it's like, okay, cool. But you have some talent on this team that can bring you some more young talent. I'm even hearing people say, oh, it's the time to trade Acuna. No, you can't trade one of the best players in the world and to do what? The team's not playing well. Trading him for one player won't make a difference. And obviously not prospects.
And that's the thing, Donnell. I mean, even if you do sell, I mean, Sale is hurt. And he's not coming back until, at least mid-August? I mean,
if you get him back in mid-August, that means he's really kicking butt because those ribs were bruised severely. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, who?
The only players I think another team would really want would be Acuna, Sale. I still think there's a really good player in Austin Riley. There's a really good third baseman in Austin Riley. I don't see why a team would really want to give you a lot for him, but I could totally see him playing in. I'm just throwing names out here. I could totally see him playing in a Yankees uniform and being way better than Chaz Chisholm at third base. But what would
you would move Chisholm to second base in that situation?
That's what you would do. You just move Chisholm over.
Yeah, but I don't think those guys long term are on the market. I don't see them making moves with, quote, cornerstones of this franchise. But, maybe they feel good enough about Baldwin at this point that maybe Murphy goes.
But Murphy's the hottest bat. Evan Olsen are the hottest bat you have. Does the team get better if you take Murphy out? Because Murphy can catch and Olsen can DH and vice versa. Ozuna is someone you might want to move. He's not hitting anything. Ozuna and I have the same amount of base hits this week. And I was a pretty decent little leaguer and a pretty decent high school player, but I've never hit in the major leagues. He and I have the same amount of hits this week. He has one more walk than me, though.
There you go. He's got good plate discipline, right?
Yeah, something like that. That's what it's called. Okay. He walks back to the dugout when he's done with the at-bat. But
here's the thing, Donnell. I mean, again, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot to sell on this roster. If you're going to shake something up, is the move a coaching move, a managerial move? I mean, are we just resigned to the fact that Brian Snitker is going to finish this season, or did you do something just for the sake of, a jolt?
Being around
and if not
the team,
Snitker, who?
Being around the team, I mean to cut you off, I apologize. Being around the team.
No, you're fine.
They're not going to touch Snitker. Snitker brought them a World Series. Whatever way you want to call it, he was the manager when they got it. Walt Weiss is the next one over. It wouldn't be third base coach. It would be Walt Weiss. Walt Weiss is right in his ear every day. Walt Weiss is a great baseball guy, a lifelong baseball guy. He's not going to change his team tomorrow. The guys are going up there playing hard. I can see the team gave up. They play hard. They're just not doing it when it needs to be done, and it's nowhere near consistent. Losing 3 series in a row is unbelievable with this many home games in a row. I get it. Phillies are tough, but they lost a series in Miami too. The LA Angels aren't even good. Another team under 500 when they came in. They lost a series to them too. So I don't know what you want. You want to play good teams well? They swept the Mets. 2.5 weeks ago, they swept the Mets and then lost and got swept by Baltimore. Those are 2 different teams. Manager doesn't make a difference with two bipolar teams like that.
Yeah, it's I just think a lot of people are just you're just stunned here at this point that we're having this conversation about this team, and Snitker is fond of talking about the back of the baseball cards and that kind of thing, and a lot of these guys have career numbers that don't indicate that this is what you would expect out of them this year.
Ozuna's a way better player than what you've seen today. Seen so far. Riley's a better player than that, for sure. Michael Harris is a much better player than what he's seen this year. He doesn't look like he's ever played baseball before. If you see him up there sometimes, it looks like a guy you kind of put in uniform and say, take a crack at it. It looks that bad, and I'm not sure what it is.
You had a change in the hitting coach position over the offseason. Kevin Seitzer's out. Tim Hires is in. Is there a different approach that has created this offensive offense?
Offensive offense. And people are talking about that, how Seitzer had him clicking. Don't forget, 2 years ago, this is the hottest offense in Major League Baseball. And that was under Seitzer, who had already been there and established himself already. Again, we're Major League. These are Major League Baseball players. Very good ones, too. I can see if this is a bad team. So a hitting coach, yeah, you work with the guy during the week, before the games. But in the end, you're up there by yourself. And the swing discipline's been really bad for certain guys. Ozuna, Michael Harris, the swing discipline is unbelievable. You can you can roll it from the mound. And I think they'll swing at that sometimes. This is what it looks, how bad it's looked. I'm a big Michael Harris supporter. It's gotten so bad. I'm thinking, wow, do you send the guy with a guaranteed contract as long as he's got 3 more full seasons to the minors just to get some more swings? No, you don't, because his glove is unbelievable. But hitting coach aside, you're up there by yourself, man. You got to do more than that.
Got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
And joining us now is the executive director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, Brad Willis.
Hey, gentlemen.
2020, how are you doing, sir?
What's up, Brad?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you joining us. The TSHOF will have its 2025 induction class ceremony on Saturday, July 19th at the Omni Nashville. And if you don't have a ticket, you should probably correct that real soon. Right, Brad?
That's right. So correct it very soon. It's crazy. It's hard to believe we're 11 days out. And this is a process that really kind of takes half of the calendar year to build towards, all the way back in December when our nomination committee is selecting this class, and then the months that follow, just trying to, make everybody aware of the news and then get things in order. It's been a great event for the last few years. Really excited that we're back at the Omni in Nashville. Just a great central location for everyone across the state to come and gather, and they do a great job of hosting our event. And so we're really excited to celebrate this class of 2025, which is our 60th class all time. I think it'll be a great night on July 19th, and tickets are available at our website, as you mentioned, tshf.net, if you're interested and wanting to come be a part of it.
Brad, what has this last, 13 months roughly been like for you since the actual physical Hall of Fame has been dark?
It's been interesting. There's a lot of relationship building going on right now. When I first started in 2020, it was about create visibility. We have a museum and we're kind of buried there at Bridgestone Arena in a great location, but unless you were coming in for the box office or the visitor center or something like that, you might not know we were there. The last 13 months have been different in the sense that there's not a space to invite people to. It's really about making sure they're aware of what our long-term plans are, where we'll be, and kind of what we're all about. And, it's as we look and kind of build toward the new museum, which will open in 2027 at the new Nissan Stadium, it's about building out a family-friendly attraction for downtown Nashville. It's about shining a light on a lot of the positive stories that have come through the world of athletics in the state of Tennessee, and just really kind of being a rallying point. When you think about sports as being something that kind of pulls us all together, we're really excited about being at what will be the epicenter of sports and entertainment in Nashville and probably arguably the entire state. We're excited about being there and being something that people can take part in for lots of different events.
Brad, as you see the construction go by, and I mean every 4 hours it feels like you see a new piece go up. Are you strong arming your way? How soon can we get our space kind of carved out there? I want to get a look at it. Is that what you've reduced to?
And almost more so than that, losing sleep. Every day that building gets taller, the more sleep I lose, because you realize that we're getting closer every day. And I mean, the last year, watching that building kind of come out of the ground and seeing within the last 3 months it double in height, being able to go and take a couple of site visits and see not just our space, but really what that entire structure will be. It's something that people are absolutely going to be floored by when they're able to kind of walk through and check it out. It's almost hard to put into words, Wade. I mean, frankly, it's one of those things that you can see from the outside, you can see from the drone shots and Sky 5, and you're just like, wow, that's really going to be something. But when you're actually in it and walking around and you can see the thought that's been put into that space for how people ingress and egress, and I really do believe it's going to be a wonderful user experience, if that's the right word, for a fan. And for us to be there, you're right. I mean, we're chomping at the bit. We'd love to be open before the building is open. And I think, it's going to be a challenge, and one that we welcome, just to be open in February of 2027, because there's just so much to be done. When you look at it from the outside, you get, kind of this sense that it's closer than it is. And so here we are, we're, probably still a year and a half away from it opening, and it feels like tomorrow. So to your point, yeah, we're chomping at the bit. We're so excited about being in that space and being a part of it, and really just looking forward to big announcements and big things that continue to come as that building nears completion.
as you get closer to Brad, I might have asked you this question before, so I apologize. But to the best of your knowledge, can you kind of put into context, are there any other similar Hall of Fames or organizations that are housed in similar arenas or stadiums? Kind of maybe if you would give us the closest. We know we're going to be the best, but give us the closest kind of current gold standard, if you will.
Well, I'll tell you, I had the pleasure of visiting the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame at Lambeau Field a couple of years ago. And, Lambeau Field, if you recall, underwent a really transformative renovation where they took that building, which was very, it was historic, but it was very rudimentary in the sense that it was just steel and chain link on the outside. And they really built around the existing structure in a way to honor the history, but they also did it in such a way where it went from Lambeau Field being an event or a venue that was open for 10 events a year to a venue that's open 364 days a year, right? And so their Sports Hall of Fame, the Packers Hall of Fame, is one that when I saw it and kind of how it lived inside Lambeau Field, and really the anchor that it became for that atrium and the restaurant and everything else that's in that space now. I came back from Green Bay kind of telling folks like this is a really good model for what we could be. And frankly, based on the designs and things that have gone into it so far, I think the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame will even be more prominent for Nissan Stadium than the Packers Hall of Fame is for Lambeau Field. And that part of that is placement. Part of that is, we're right there on that west side, that southwest corner. So many of the people who enter for concerts and events are going to walk right past, our entrance and a glass wall that shows really kind of what's to do inside. So, yeah, I mean, the Packers is probably the closest that I've seen. Now, not a state museum per se, right. But one that I feel like really kind of matches what we have planned in terms of being right there in an NFL stadium.
We're pleased to have with us from Pittsburgh Baseball Now, the inimitable John Parado joining us. JP, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'll have to get my dictionary out for that one. I hope that's a good thing you called me, but how are you, Mo?
It's an absolutely great thing, John, and I'm good, man. We are really appreciative of you taking some time with us this afternoon. How are things in Pittsburgh?
Better than they were early in the year. They got off to a 12-26 start and fired their manager, Derek Shelton, promoted bench coach Don Kelly, who is a Pittsburgh area native and very outgoing, very upbeat guy, and the fans have really gotten behind him. And but the one thing is, every time they seem to really take a step forward, like they had a 6-0 homestand that finished last Wednesday, and they turn around and they're 0-5 on their 9-game road trip leading into the All-Star break. So it's been kind of up and down, but overall they've played better since the managerial change. They just don't have a whole lot of talent offensively.
Yeah, and to that point, John, we talked on this show about that situation. I think Derek Shelton was the first manager to get fired this season. He was followed by Bud Black in Colorado and by Brandon Hyde in Baltimore. But, the point that we really kept coming back to was we didn't really know what the expectations were for Pittsburgh coming into this season, that, Derek Shelton did not perform to the level of.
Well, internally, they thought they could make a run at the playoffs this year. And last year, they came out of the All-Star break. They swept Philadelphia. They were only a couple of games out of that third and final wild card in the National League. And it looked like if they made the right trades, maybe they could both bolster themselves and push themselves into the playoffs for the first time since 2015. Instead, they made the wrong moves at the trading deadline. They got worse, and they fell apart with a 10-game losing streak in August. And, there are a lot of people within the game that wondered if Ben Cherington, the general manager, and Shelton would be fired after the collapse last year. They weren't. But then it became clear very early this season, Mo, that a change needed to be made somewhere. They weren't only losing, but they looked terrible while they were doing a lot of mental mistakes, a lot of base running mistakes, a lot of fielding mistakes. And when you have a team that doesn't hit very well, I mean, you can't beat yourself. You've got to play solidly in all those phases of the game.
Well, it's good to have that insight because, from you being a little bit closer to it, obviously, than we were, it was just kind of we didn't quite get it, but I will certainly defer to you on that. And you feel like they're putting a better product on the court, on the field under Don Kelly now?
Maybe that's what the Pirates should do. They should maybe convert them to an NBA team. Maybe they have more success than they do in baseball, Mo. That's
so.
actually, you might be onto something there in that Freudian slip. But anyway, they've played better. I mean, Donnie's a good baseball guy. He had over 6 years of big league service time, and he'll be the first one to admit that he wasn't a very talented guy, but he learned to play every position. He did play every position at some point in his career when you count a couple games as emergency catcher and as a mop-up pitcher, mainly with Detroit. And I think that carries some clout. And Pittsburgh's a very provincial city, and I think anyone from here will admit that. If you're not from here, there's always suspicion at first. Is this guy okay or not? And I think the fact that Donnie is a Pittsburgh guy has definitely helped the fans' perception of the team. And again, I think what would help Donnie more than anything is a couple of more legitimate big league hitters, because they just really struggle to score runs.
It probably didn't hurt in Pittsburgh that he got tossed, twice in his first 3 games or something like that?
Yeah, he got thrown out. And he's really a mild-mannered guy. If you ever talk to him, you would think, oh, this is a guy who would never get thrown out. He's like, so level-headed and so calm. But he stood up for his players early on, and I think that struck a pretty good tone in the clubhouse. And I think they really appreciated that. And I think some of it, to be quite honest, is probably for show. I don't think Donnie's really the type of guy who's real comfortable with going out there and just yelling at umpires. But he showed he had the players back, and they appreciate it. And I think the fans also appreciate it because, they thought that pretty much everyone had quit caring here by the middle of May, and to see the manager come out and show some fire, show some spark, that's something the fans wanted to see.
And it felt like they did get a little spark. I mean, John, we're talking keeping loose tabs on them throughout the year. You mentioned the slow start. It hadn't been great, and obviously they had to make a managerial change. But then as recently as a couple weeks ago, they look like world beaters, sweeping the Mets and the Cardinals with 3 consecutive shutouts, and then promptly got shut out 3 games in a row. Does that kind of perfectly encapsulate them right now, just riding the roller coaster of that kind of range of emotions?
Yeah. Exactly. The consistency just hasn't been there, and especially offensively. They're last in the major leagues in runs scored. That you mentioned that homestand, they swept 3 from the Mets. They swept 3 from the Cardinals. They scored 43 runs while doing it, and only gave up 4 runs in that entire homestand. So you get to thinking, well, maybe, and I'm not necessarily playoffs, but maybe, they have a little spark and will at least make the rest of the season interesting. Now they go on the road and they go to Seattle, and like you said, they got shut out all 3 days. Not only swept, but didn't even score a run. Then they go into Kansas City and having a hard time scoring runs there in the first 2 games too, against the team that's second to last in the big leagues in runs scored. So, it's been a very frustrating season, and when you see them start to make progress, it always seems like they take a step back again.
You mentioned that. I found a stat here on ESPN. Yeah, the first team since 1901 to score 43 runs or more and only allow 4 runs in a 6-game stretch, and then go out and get shut out 3 in a row. So, I mean, I'm kind of glad that I'm just a neutral observer at this point, because that would be stuff to rip my hair out.
Well, the thing about Pirate fans is they've learned to accept failure. They've had 4 winning seasons in the last 32 years. And, the sad part is, but when they do play well, when they do start to show any kind of spark, people get excited. I mean, and, people want, this is a good baseball market. And I know a lot of people look at it and say, no, it's not. It's one of the worst markets in pro sports, but it really isn't. It's just that they've giving the fans nothing to hang on to hardly for over 3 decades now. And they've really lost the younger generation of fans who have never seen the Pirates really win. And it's really an uphill battle, and they don't seem a lot of times to understand and get out of their own way with some of the stupid things they do.
And to that point, John, the Pirates have one all-star heading into next week's game, and it's pitcher Paul Skeens, who, despite leading the National League in ERA, has a sub-500 record. You know, you talk about offense. I mean, this guy's going to get to Atlanta and just be glad to see some hitters around him, I would think, right?
Yeah, in fact, you know, we made the suggestion, you know, I have in one of my columns, because being a wise ass that I am, I said that maybe, you know, Skeens was a catcher at Air Force Academy before he transferred to LSU. He hit 13 home runs. Now, granted, it was in the Mountain West, and, you know, at high altitude. The year before he transferred to LSU, he was a catcher as well as a pitcher. And I've suggested that they, instead of having a DH on days he pitches, let him at least have a chance to take matters into his own hands and let him hit. But like you said, Mo, he's leading the league in ERA 1.82, which is outstanding to have a sub-2 ERA this far into the season. And his record's 4-7.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
He's back. Sorry, guys.
That's
I
all
lost
right,
you there.
man. Yeah, that's okay. We appreciate you coming back.
What's up, Coach?
Coming back.
Yeah. How are you?
We're doing well. So I understand that since you last visited the show, you've been to Wimbledon and back. Am I getting that right?
Yes, sir. I was there for a couple of weeks. I'm back, but actually I'm at the Nashville airport. I've got to make another little quick trip. But yes, was there for a couple of weeks. Got to catch not only qualifying, but some of the main draw, some of the junior tournament leading up to it, and great time as always whenever you're in London and around Wimbledon.
Wade said that it was kind of tough catching up with you, tough keeping up with you. Where are you off to?
I've got to run down to Orlando for the USTA National Tennis Center is down there. It's 100 tennis courts. It's a big campus where everything happens. So quick little trip down there for a meeting and look at some players and then get back.
Yeah, that's usually always the first question, Mo, is where is Bill?
Where is Bill? Okay.
Like I said, I knew he was back from England, but I didn't know where he was at the moment, and we kind of got our answer right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always on the move, trying to get better, you know.
Hey, real quick, I understand that. But hey, before we go any further, what'd you get me from the Ralph Lauren store? I told you to grab me something.
Well, they were out of mediums. They did not have your size anymore.
Okay.
So
we'll have to settle up another way then, because I was banking on something fancy from over there. But
something. I brought you some grass though from the court. How about that?
I mean, I'll take that. I was hoping maybe. I mean, as far back as we go, I was thinking for a little bit better, but I suppose
something a little nicer. Okay.
That would suffice.
You got to remember the U.S. Open's coming up pretty soon, so I'll be there for that. So of course, maybe I may get up to you extra with something from New York.
Okay, I love that. Hey, real quick, another funny one before we go any further, Bill. What was the latest on Rufus the Hawk? We talked about him on our Wild and Wacky headlines yesterday, and he's scaring the pigeons away at Wimbledon. Is he okay? Did you see him? Did you have an encounter with Rufus?
I did not tangle with Rufus the Hawk, but I do know one of my good buddies. He always, every year, he goes a few days early. He goes by and checks out the Hawk because he's real good friends with the grounds crew that's there. But I'm telling you that they're very serious about that, because there's a lot of time and money and effort put into maintaining those grounds to literal perfection. So it's not a bad gig if you're a groundskeeper or you're the Hawk.
Now, Bill, let me ask you, because we were talking about this, and I'm concerned. Now, is Rufus just there kind of, I don't know, as an enforcer, or is he actually taking matters into his own beak with regards to these pigeons? I mean, just how much of an enforcer are we talking about with Rufus? Does this thing come to,
I think he lays down the law. He definitely lays down the law, and they want to keep the pigeons away. They want to keep other things away from there. So I think when he needs to, he flexes a little muscle.
Wow.
I've not seen it firsthand, but I can imagine he's paid very well to take care of that place. So,
and he does what he needs to do, huh?
You do what you got to do, right? You handle your business.
You mentioned bringing Wade some grass back. They might not, given the shape that the grass is in right now, they might not take too kindly, Bill, to that.
No, that's the thing. I mean, you see it on TV, and you don't really have an appreciation for what grass court tennis is like until you're actually out on the grass. But even 2 days into the tournament, it gets pretty chewed up. You get these crazy bounces. They're very protective of the main courts, center court 1, 2, and 3, and some of the show courts. So they limit on how much time you can practice on those, who gets to practice on it. I mean, you've got to be highly ranked to be able to even get on there, and you're very precise on how much hitting time you get. But it's very, very much overseen as far as like what's going on, because that grass goes pretty quick.
As hot as it is over there right now, the condition of the grass, who does that benefit? I mean, and in terms of skill level and that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting about this is that, over the course of 2 weeks, and even 3 weeks, really, because you're talking about players getting there early, maybe playing qualifying at Roehampton, practicing on the grass. It changes speed. It changes the way it plays over the course of those 2 to 3 weeks, because you go from something that's better bounces, no dead spots, no chewed up spots, faster, maybe a little slicker, to now almost playing like, I don't want to say clay, but playing more dirty, if you will, because the grass is gone and you're down to just the dirt. And so it takes someone who can mix it up, that can have the big serve, that can chip, that can use some different spins, that can kind of maybe junk it up a little bit to get past a couple of rounds, get deep into the tournament. So you in the old days of just having a big server, it's more than just having a big serve. You got to have some skill to be able to change things up.
Oh, hey, real quick before we let you get out of here,
Yeah.
Bill, producer Mark wants to, we have a side-by-side. Hopefully you can see this. We have the pasta on one side and we have the sandwich on the other side. And if you can see it, we want to get your feedback. Which of those two are you taking?
Oh gosh, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm not much on food coming out of the grocery store that's prepackaged. So if I have to choose between one of the two, I'm going to go the pasta with the strawberries.
I mean, it doesn't. The pictures obviously make things look better, and that picture looks phenomenal. I would try that at this point.
Actually, you know what? I mean, looking at it now, I'd be like, okay, I could try that. I'm just not going to do the sandwich in the prepackage. Just not happening.
Yeah,
that's an airport veteran move
I tend
right
to
there.
agree there. I think given the two, if it's one or the other, it's probably going to be Swiatek's pasta that we go with. So yeah, I think it's unanimous here. Bill, we appreciate you, man.
Guys, take it easy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Pleased to have with us former coach, new athletics director for Williamson County Schools, Patrick Whitlock, joining us. Coach, good afternoon.
How's it going, guys? Appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you joining us, man. So what was it like not going to camp?
Well, I did get to coach for a few days as I was in the interview process for this job, but that got stopped about halfway through the summer, and I had to go in on a Friday and tell my team that I wasn't coming back. So that was probably one of the tougher things I've had to do. But, this was an opportunity that came about and one you really can't turn down. So I'm excited for this new chapter as I move forward here.
As you consider, Patrick, the idea of not interacting with kids on a day-to-day basis as you have for the last 19 years, I'm sure that was certainly a different realm for you. What is the attraction for this job against that backdrop?
I think just really a new challenge. I mean, anytime you've been at a place for 19 years, being at Ravenwood, that's kind of an outlier. There's just not a lot of people, particularly in the coaching profession, that stay at a place for 19 years, particularly in Williamson County. And I just kind of saw this as a new challenge. Obviously, I knew my predecessors pretty well. I'm close with Jeremy Qualls and Darren Joins. And, just seeing, what they got out of the job made it appealing. But also the aspect of not being able to interact with kids on a daily basis is something I'm going to, seriously miss. I mean, I've thought about that. The first day of school is going to be weird. When I go back and visit Ravenwood and walk into a gym and watch somebody else coach my team, that's going to be weird. So I will definitely miss the interaction with the kids. But I've got a chance to make an impact on a broader scale now, and just accept this challenge and kind of see if I can continue the momentum that this school district has had for many years.
Yeah, when you put it into context like that, Coach, taking over and now with the chance to, as you just said, make a broader impact, that to me is kind of one of those vague ideas that, man, I could really get lost in the weeds thinking about that. I'm curious, what's going to be your first couple basic things you'd like to kind of maybe get done as you begin this new chapter?
Well, I mean, if we're just being candid, like the first year is all about survival. The job isn't broken. There's nothing to fix. It's got a lot of momentum. So kind of just keeping things on level ground. And I don't anticipate to make any like major moves in year one. I mean, there's some different things on the table, but some streaming contracts about how we're going to get our digital content out and things like that. There could be some changes there, but really just kind of maintaining in year one, building relationships with people I don't know. I'm not just in charge of the high schools. I'm also in charge of the middle schools, and the bulk of my experience, all of my experience has been at the high school level. So getting out in the schools, building relationships with the people that I don't know is going to be the biggest priority in year one, and just making sure that the transition is smooth. And, this time next year, perhaps if I get to talk to you guys again, we can be talking about maybe some significant changes, but nothing is broken right now. So I want to just make sure that, it's kind of year one, don't screw anything up.
That's an interesting approach. That's an interesting philosophy, Patrick, because you mentioned Jeremy Qualls, you mentioned Darren Joines. How do you resist, the new sheriff in town mentality of this? I mean, like you said, there's nothing broke. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction with athletics in Williamson County. How do you not do something to kind of put your stamp on things?
Well, I mean, I'm not Jeremy and I'm not Darren. I mean, Darren, obviously kind of a smooth operator, a really good person in terms of like media and portraying himself, as was Jeremy. Jeremy's kind of an innovator. Jeremy made this job essentially what it is. I mean, it was kind of before he took it, it was just a figurehead job, kind of pushing paper, and he added the media aspect to it. And that's something that I'm going to have to, is going to be a work in progress. I think what sets Williamson County apart is they did a really good job of the media piece, which in reality, that is just an extra part to this job that other people don't, other districts don't have. Other districts do the things behind the scenes, approving field trips, scheduling games, facilities, etc. But the media piece that Williamson County has is kind of special. So having to embrace that role and put my stamp on that. My show will look different from the one that Jeremy and Darren did. My personality is a little bit different. So, I mean, there will be some differences, but in terms of changing the structure, I don't see anything major happening over the next several months.
Patrick Whitlock, new Williamson County Athletics Director, on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Patrick, you talked about a new challenge, 19 seasons again at Ravenwood. Kind of easy to maybe get a little stagnant, not saying that you did, but I mean, as you think about that aspect, stepping away from that, other than telling your kids, what was tough? What do you anticipate being tough? You talked about stepping into the gym and seeing somebody else coaching your team, but just the day-to-day aspect of that, where would you expect to maybe be a little shaken, I guess?
There's always things when you're in a position like this that are going to come up. I kind of joke with people at Ravenwood. I got to hear, maybe 20 families' complaints. Now I get to hear potentially 30,000 families' complaints about stuff. I've been a pretty available person my entire life. Having to tell people no is something I'm definitely going to have to work on, because I've always kind of been available and willing to listen to people. And just honestly, the whirlwind of the last month of people consistently calling, wanting to meet, wanting to have conversations about what their thoughts are. you don't want to blow anybody off, but also, you want to make sure you're using your time wisely, and you can't just be accommodating to everybody. So from the day-to-day perspective, that's going to be tough. Ravenwood was kind of my family. A lot of my friendships and people that I would spend time with socially were there. So that's a little bit of a change. But everybody at central office has been extremely helpful, and it's been a very smooth transition. And, I get up every morning, not being run by a bell, not having to rush out my door at 6:45 every morning to make sure I'm at Ravenwood by 7:05 to get ready to teach and things like that. So there's really some significant differences from going kind of as a full-time educator to a little bit more of a professional role that, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around.
You mentioned obviously the coaching aspect kind of departing, but just now when you referenced teaching, what's maybe one or two other things that you think already that you're really maybe going to miss about kind of being in that on-campus 24/7 type environment?
Well, it's not just the teaching and the coaching aspects. I referenced the relationships a minute ago, but also just the interaction with students that maybe aren't in your class, things of that nature. I think it goes without saying, like, there's a pretty significant mental health crisis going on with kids that are roughly 16 to 25. And having the chance to impact those kids in a variety of ways was really meaningful to me. So, but just the daily structure of not just being run in 50-minute increments through a bell every day, and having your schedule being so structured and indicative of what you have to do on a daily basis, where I could show up at work tomorrow and think, well, I don't have a lot on my agenda today, and that can change rather quickly in this job.
Yeah, instead of a classroom bell, now it's more of a cell phone ding. It sounds like, hey, you got this meeting coming up in 10 minutes, or you got to use Zoom, you got to hurry up and get to. I imagine it's going to be a little similar, but just kind of in a different stroke, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a much better job of waking up in the morning and looking at my Outlook calendar to see what's on the agenda for the day, because, you schedule so many meetings in advance, things can creep up on you pretty quick. But I in terms of talking on the phone, I probably talked on the phone more in the first 2 weeks, like physically on the phone, than I did in the last 2 years. So there have been a lot of phone conversations over the last couple of weeks.
Patrick, you handed things off to a guy who's been an assistant for you for the last 7 years, Chris Hooper, the new coach of the Raptors. What do you feel like you left him?
Well, he was very fortunate to get a little bit of an infusion of talent. We joke about the transfer portal at the high school level, and obviously that dynamic has changed pretty significantly. But you got a couple of transfers from Lipscomb Academy, Brooks Brown and Danny Brown. Danny Brown will be a senior and will be an impact kid right away. Brooks will factor into that lineup as well. He's got some good kids coming back. Isaac Brent, who will be a senior, who'll be very productive. Will McCarter, Matt Nava. He's got a pretty good influx of talent. And then they've also got a kid that I never got to coach that just arrived last week, Sam Steppen, who was District Player of the Year in San Jose in California, who will be a senior. So he's going to have some talent to work with. He's a very talented coach. He's one of my closest friends. He deserved this opportunity. He's had some head coaching stops before that, probably from a record standpoint, don't look as impressive as they should, because at the time when he took those jobs, they weren't really good jobs. This is the first opportunity he's had to really have a good job, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do with it, and I know he's going to be successful, and I'm very excited for them, even though, as we all know, I'll be an impartial observer since I'm in the district athletic director role throughout the rest of the season.
Basketball in that district is going to look a lot different. There's been a few departures across that district this time around. So, for fans of 10-4A, it's going to be a little bit of a shock to walk in the gym and not see you and not see Jeremy Moore at Centennial and some of the other changes that have taken place. Kind of a new era, I guess, rolling out.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they broke the district up again. So, we've got Franklin, Centennial, Ravenwood, Brentwood, and Nolensville in one district. And then the other side of the region is Independent, Summit, Page, and now Columbia Central back in the mix. So it's going to be a different dynamic. The sub-state matchup has changed. It's So that would be the teams I just listed would be the region, and now the sub-state goes through Murfreesboro. So, that's always a tough out right there. So it's going to be a little different in terms of overall talent, basketball-wise in the district. I think there's probably going to be a little bit of a drop, but I don't think it's going to be as noticeable as people think. Because people ask me what's changed in my 19 years in Williamson County. We've always had some good coaches, but right now I feel like the level of coaching in this county is elite, and I think it's really, really good. And when I've talked to principals and they ask for advice from me about what can we do to have a successful athletic program, I said it's all about the coaches you hire. That's the only thing you can really control. You really can't control who's walking in and out of that building in a public school. So we've been very successful in assembling a really talented lineup of coaches, not just in basketball, but across the board.
That's an interesting point that you make, Patrick, and it leads me to the question again, as County AD in Williamson County, how involved would you expect to be in coaching hires? Would you anticipate principals and school ADs soliciting your input in those situations, or is that strictly a school decision and you're just kind of hovering?
That's a school decision, and how I've offered up that I'm happy to take place in any interview process they want me to. I've been involved in some interviews at Centennial High School already, but I think my role is more of, if you're looking at the college model, it's more of a search firm type role. I'm constantly looking for like good coaching talent and trying to develop relationships with people that would be interested in coming here. And if coaches or athletic directors or principals want me to vet candidates or offer advice or point them in the right direction, I'm more than happy to do that. But in reality, our principals are really, really smart, and they've done a pretty good job without a lot of input from this role. So I'm just there in a supplemental way if needed.
We mentioned basketball a little bit, Coach. Are you brushed up on your volleyball and soccer before you get diving into the fall sports calendar here?
I coached at Pepperdine for 5 years, and that was kind of my first real exposure to volleyball. And I was actually a really big volleyball fan while I was out there. Got really tight with their men's coach, Marv Dunphy, who's kind of a legend in that profession. So I feel pretty good about my volleyball knowledge, and I've always kind of been a low-key soccer fan. And I was AD at Ravenwood for 8 years, so I was out at a lot of events then too. So I'm not too worried about that, but there are probably some things that I have to brush up on here and there with some sports. I'm not overly familiar with lacrosse, so when that comes around, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there.
You're good. Good news, Coach. Coach, nobody is. So you're in good company there. There's only a few elite handfuls that know all the real ins and outs of that. So I feel like you're in decent shape there.
No doubt. No doubt.
Patrick, you're not the only noteworthy Ravenwood coach to be departing that campus. Will Hester stepping into a middle school administration role earlier this year. I mean, it's really a new day over there.
It is. I knew Will was wanting to get into administration. He was a lot like me. I think he wanted to coach one more year. I really wanted to coach one more year. But in his situation, the job where he went to middle school came open, a great situation for him, close to his house, to get into administration with a principal that he had worked with before. And, in education, it's all about relationships and working for people that you are familiar with and respect. So I think it was something that he really had to pursue. But, he left a pretty talented Ravenwood team behind. I think they will probably be one of the favorites in 6A, along with, the crosstown rival Brentwood over there. And I expect some other schools in Williamson County to make some noise as well.
Yeah. Interesting situation with Ricky Rodriguez ascending to that head coaching role with boys tackle football after winning the girls flag football state invitational championship this past spring. Opportunity to pull off a rare double, obviously, for him. No pressure though, Ricky.
Yeah, no pressure at all. I mean, I think he felt the pressure day one. He knew what a coveted job that was, and being able to get that job, he was obviously ecstatic. But he's a good relationship person. He kept most of that staff intact. He's a great motivator, and I think he'll be very successful. They have a very difficult schedule. They're going down to Madison, Mississippi to play their opening game, and that's a traditional powerhouse down there. They've got Lipscomb Academy, on the schedule as well, not to mention Oakland and then the gauntlet that they have to run within their region. So it's not going to be easy on him, but it's one of those situations where he could go 7-3 in the regular season and then make a run because they're so battle tested.
In your new role, who have you had a chance to interact with, maybe who you maybe didn't know or hadn't had a chance to be around previously that you've really enjoyed or been impressed by?
Being around the high school level for 19 years, I've got most of my relationships are in high school. I've been dealing with the middle schools quite a bit because I just don't know that group very well. So I would say probably I got to have a phone conversation or a Zoom conversation yesterday with Coach Hughes out at Fairview. I do not know him very well. He's trying to get girls flag football going at the middle school level, and he is very passionate about that and was very direct about that. And we had a really good conversation, and it looks like he's going to spearhead that. So in my very short tenure of talking to people, I would say he's probably somebody that's kind of stuck out a little bit because he is very passionate about what he does. And, dipping into the middle school level for anything is not always easy, but he seems to be the catalyst behind that happening.
I've known Chris for 40 years, and it's not a shock to me at all that he is the person that has stuck out to you. He is definitely very passionate about his girls flag football, has done some stuff on the national level. Obviously, he's played the game at its highest level, and he is a flag football. I don't know the perfect word to describe it, but ambassador, I guess maybe. And so middle school girls flag football, is that getting ready to be a thing?
It is on the table. Allegedly, or apparently, they already have it in Dixon County, and that was kind of the driving force behind Coach Hughes wanting to introduce that. So I got on a Zoom call with the Fairview Middle AD, Coach Hughes, and the principal yesterday, and we're trying to put together kind of a little committee here in the next few weeks, talk about the feasibility of that. But knowing the people in our county, I think that'll come to fruition here in the spring.
This spring?
Yes. He is adamant. He is adamant that we can make that happen in the spring. So I'm all in on it. I think it'll be a great endeavor for our programs.
Wow, that'd be fantastic. Patrick Whitlock, you said you weren't going to change anything. Now here you go.
Well, hey, that's on the guidance of somebody else right there. So that's an easy one. That's an easy one.
Coach, with that kind of being said, Williamson County's obviously got such a great reputation for kind of thinking outside the box and kind of really stretching what might be available or achieve underachievement there for our student athletes. Do you have already, maybe you don't have to necessarily reveal them unless you're comfortable, do you have any kind of big picture ideas, like further expanding either partnerships? You mentioned kind of leveraging some streaming rights. It seems like you are in a great spot to kind of really, again, kind of think outside the box in terms of how you guys approach a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of our advertising endeavors of how we have raised money, particularly as a district, the schools do fine. But as a district, I think there's some low-hanging fruit there, and that's some things really Darren kind of got off the ground before I came in, and it's now going to be my job to capitalize on it. We've had a contract with NFHS for a very long time in terms of streaming our games. They've got a proposal on the table. Huddle, which is kind of the entity that most of our coaches use for film breakdown and things of that, is trying to get in the streaming game, and they desperately want Williamson County to be kind of their pilot program for that. So that's on the table. But I also think, some of the bigger issues for me, and this is no secret, is facility-wise, despite that we have these big, beautiful schools, from an athletic standpoint, there are some areas that are lacking. And we have to find a way to make that happen. We're not just going to magically come up with $50 million to put field houses on every campus and things of that nature. But I do think in the future there are going to be some ways we have to get creative to maximize our facilities. Mm-hmm. I also think coach retention is a big part. I think our salaries, credit to our school board and our superintendent, the salaries are starting to get more competitive with surrounding counties. And I think our coaching stipends are fair But we've lost a lot of coaches historically to private schools, and a lot of times there might not be anything you can do about that. But we want to make sure that we're giving our coaches the resources and the tools to where they can use their time wisely and maximize their time, and make Williamson County a destination for them rather than a stepping stone. So those would just be a few things I would highlight there that I'm passionate about because I've lived it for 19 years. But like I said, you can control your coaches in the building, and if we can retain our great coaches, then we're going to be in great shape.
Patrick, if I, as a journalist who finds himself often on Williamson County campuses, can make one request, can y'all do something about the internet?
Yes, we. Yeah, I didn't stay at work today to do this interview. That's what I will tell you. We have great people that work in our IT department, but the internet capability, particularly in our gyms and really non-existent in our stadiums, is a little bit tough. So that has been brought to my attention. You're not the first person to bring that up, and we want to keep the media happy. So I'm definitely going to do what I can on that.
Well played.
We appreciate that. Patrick Whitlock, Athletics Director for Williamson County Schools, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia on Coach's Corner.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
OVC Insider, Ohio Valley Conference Insider, Bob Belvin joining us to talk a little OVC / Big South Association FCS football. Bob, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. Glad to be with you. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for helping us out, man, because as much as we think we'd like to know about OVC football, we like to defer to the experts when we can. And in your capacity as host of OVC Big South Media Days here about a week and a half or so ago, I figure you got a pretty good fix on what's going on. Before we go forward, let's go back. The OVC Big South had a four-way tie atop the conference in 2024 with Southeast Missouri State, Tennessee Tech, UT Martin, and Tennessee State, each going 6-2 in conference play. Parity comes to the OVC Big South. SEMO, Martin, and TSU, each with 9 regular season victories, advanced to the FCS playoffs. Tennessee Tech was the odd team out, but the Golden Eagles are picked to win the OVC Big South this fall, drawing 5 of 9 first place votes in the preseason polling. Bob, what do you like about the Golden Eagles, first of all, coming into this season?
Well, you always have transitions when you bring a new staff in, and in December of 23, that's when Bobby Wilder and his group came in. Wilder, of basically Old Dominion University fame, when he began that program in 2007 and bought that up from zero to a very competitive FBS program, and then left there. And sometimes in that case, the climb, as they say, is much more easier than the maintaining of it. And for whatever reason, he was in the market. And when the Tennessee Tech administration made a move, they made a big move. And, you know, that coincides with the stadium demolition and reconstruction of the side nearest the Hooper Eblen Center. And so last year, if you ever could characterize something as a year of transition, it would have to be last year. You know, you've seen the photos of Tech playing on, you know, fans on just one side of the stadium and rubble on the other side, and a brand new coach. And they really scratched out. And it was I felt a masterful coaching job by Bobby Wilder. So flash forward, in the interim, he loses his athletic director and brings in just a massive new recruiting class to include a quarterback from Eastern Washington that's going to be their leader this year. And then all of a sudden, you get to that point you were talking about in media days, and you go, hey, I need to do a little research on these guys. And what you find out when you look at that is a team that, you know, again, on paper, looks to be a next rung up from where they were in that four-way share of the title. And, you know, a great year for the OVC, Big South getting 3 teams into the playoffs last year, which is unheard of, not happened before then. And Tech felt like they were a bit slighted, and they really took that advantage. There's just a ton of new talent there, but they got some good anchors on defense with Kutris and Swafford. And I really feel like they're going to compete, and they've got a pretty favorable schedule.
Behind Tech, you've got UT Martin and SEMO slotted at 2 and 3, according to the poll. Lindenwood, Western Illinois at 4 and 5, Eastern Illinois and Gardner-Webb tied for 6. If you notice, I've still not mentioned the 4th team that was tied at the top last year.
Yeah.
Tennessee State in this year's preseason poll voted 8th, ahead only of Charleston Southern. And Bob, I wonder how much that has to do with the turnover that TSU had with its coaching staff at the end of the 24 season.
Yeah, the number is 45 and counting, right? I mean, you know, new players that coming in to include an entire new coaching staff. Wow. I mean, there's a lot of excitement about what TSU could do. You know, looking at Reggie Barlow leaving the professional coaching ranks and going back to that, because he felt like, and all you have to do is talk to him, Maurice, and he feels like this is a heck of an opportunity for me. And look at the coaching staff he's put together. I mean, you know, Greg Williamson, somebody we're very familiar with in this part of the world, as his defensive coordinator, also coming from the professional ranks. And then Reggie Barlow's been very upfront that first week. I mean, he finished his regular season in the UFL on a Sunday. He was hired by Monday, and obviously things were going on in the background during that point in time. But once he got to Nashville, he's been very open that he had to spend a lot of time re-recruiting, as you hear coaches have to do most often. But in this quick turnaround with Eddie George leaving and all that was surrounding that, and about a 3-week gap where they didn't have a head coach at that point in time, and you can make with that what you wish. But he also is proud, Reggie Barlow is, of what he was able to keep that had thought about going to the portal. The coaching change, you're able to make a move there. So this is going to be, I mean, from an X and an O's guy, I mean, look at your head coach and your DC in that situation. That has to be attractive to players. And I just got to believe that they might be a little underrated at this point in time. But again, with an entirely new staff and everything that's going on at Tennessee State, that's a safe place to put them. It's really near the bottom. I don't think that's going to be the case when they finish up the week before Thanksgiving.
we were fortunate enough to have Mickey Allen, the athletics director at Tennessee State, on about a week and a half ago, and it wasn't long after that preseason poll came out, and he related to us that Coach Barlow said when they were announced 8th in the preseason poll, he said, "Oh, that's cute," So it, one, definitely got their attention, and two, probably won't be the last time the Tigers hear that they were picked 8th in the conference. But you mentioned Greg Williams, the longtime NFL assistant coach and defensive coordinator, famous, infamous, depending on where you want to go with his background. Yep. But the offensive coordinator, former Tennessee State quarterback, and former DC Defenders UFL championship coach Shannon Harris coming back to campus as well. And, I just kind of felt like, Bob, as soon as Barlow was announced as the head coach, the question that I was continuing to think about is Shannon coming back? Well, yeah, he is, and he did. And you talk about this coaching staff, and they've got some guys. Russ Ehrenfeld is also back coaching that offensive line. It's not the first time he's been on that campus either. I mean, they've got some name recognition with Williams, but they've also got some guys with some familiarity, one with that program, two with this conference.
Yeah, I think one of the things we often talk about, remember that cliche with athletic directors, oh, I've got 3 or 4 coaches written down a piece of paper on my desk. I think the same thing was going on with Reggie Barlow when he was in the UFL with the Washington franchise. And when I talked to him media days, he kind of relayed that, Maurice. He was like, yep. And it didn't take long until I got Greg to come or Shannon to come. And so the amount of work, if you will, that was being done in the middle of, in their playoff run with Washington, with the Renegades, really speaks to what he was doing. And wow, talk about being able to compartmentalize how you're doing, coaching that team and getting this going. And then everything just really fell into place for him. Russ Ehrenfeld, I'm glad you mentioned that because I asked Coach Barlow about that too. And Russ Ehrenfeld, I've known since the mid 80s when I was an undergrad at Austin Peay. He was on the staff there then. That guy has seen a lot. And, to see Reggie's eyes light up over the offensive line coach that he's known for a long time, that says a lot about that relationship and how far they go back and how confident Barlow is of Ehrenfeld. He's been there for a long time. And this is his 3rd stint at Tennessee State.
Obviously very comfortable there. Bob Belvin, our OVC insider, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we talk a little OVC Big South football, getting our college football preview started. Bob, you can't talk about the OVC and not talk about UT Martin. I mean, they've kind of set the standard in this conference for a pretty good while. Again, one of the 3 teams from the conference that advanced to the FCS playoffs, and the only team to win a game in the playoffs. Won their opener at New Hampshire in pretty decisive fashion before falling to Montana State. So the Skyhawks and Jason Simpson again have kind of set the standard in this conference for a minute now.
Yeah, 18th season for him. And let's go ahead and name drop. It looks like his son is going to be the starting quarterback at the University of Alabama, Ty Simpson. Don't look now, but his son, Graham, is a senior at Martin Westview.
Is he finally a senior?
Feels like that for Middle Tennessee area high school football teams, right, Maurice?
Yeah, exactly.
It sure does. I believe so. I need to check on that. But Jason Simpson is kind of as you mentioned, kind of the gold standard. There's a couple of beliefs, if you will, rumors, if you will, beliefs later that he would leave maybe and even go to Alabama when his son went there, or if his son went to UT, just remain in the system. And Josh Heupel would have found a job for him there. But, there is never a guy that you will interview and meet and know personally, as I have the privilege of, that just is comfortable exactly where he's at in West Tennessee. He's got a great pipeline. And I was teasing him when I was talking to him in media days, and I held this piece of paper up because this is all the information available on who is going to be his starting quarterback this season, right? So they hadn't even gotten the data. The sports information folks hadn't been able to get all that accumulated, and yet he's got just great contacts, and he's got UT Martin does 30-plus players on the from the transfer portal that they've gotten. A lot of Power 5 transfers down in, and he lost a lot to Power 5 as well. And so I'm not going to necessarily call it a farm team. I want to be real careful about making that analogy, but he seems to have really good contacts and gets really good players and really does a fantastic job in developing them, and they move on. He's got several on his coaching staff that have played for him in the past and kind of came back around through that route. So watch out for them. Jace Bauer is the young man that's going to be his quarterback. He's a transfer from Sam Houston State.
Coming back to the quarterback situation at TSU just a second, Bob, they apparently have had a transfer come in as well, and it's a guy with a little bit of a pedigree. Last name Palmer. One of his
I'm getting my
uncles.
notes. I had to pull my notes out on that as
well.
Yeah, I just
he is Carson and Jordan's nephew. Carson Palmer, former Heisman Trophy winner. So, I think the quarterback situation
he comes
over
from
at
Gardner
TSU is going to
Webb.
shape up kind of interestingly.
Yeah, I think, at the FCS level, I think it's real important, particularly talking to OVC Big South, FCS level. I think it's really important to watch the quarterbacks this year in this conference because there are a number of them. We mentioned Bauer at Martin. We've got the young man Palmer at Tennessee State that you mentioned. There's a kid at Lindenwood. Charleston Southern feels like they've gotten a transfer in that's going to help them. And all of these are generally FBS transfers down to FCS. And I think they'll make an impact. So, I think we're in this cycle now with NFL portal, all of those, or NIL portal, all of those elements that you really need to look at these quarterbacks because they're looking for opportunities to play, and the FCS level in the OVC Big South is certainly a good stopping point for them.
Bob, it seems like Mo takes all the great questions and kind of leaves us kind of barren. I like to talk dark horses, though. You guys mentioned the teams are projected at the top of the OVC that are kind of picked to make some noise. I like to talk about dark horses. So who's a team maybe that the media is not talking about enough that you have on your radar that might sneak up and make some noise this fall?
Yeah, I would put Lindenwood in that group. They've got a young man. It's actually been a 3-year starter for him, but he's a transfer in. I know we're kind of wanting to focus a little bit on Middle Tennessee or Tennessee area schools. I think Lindenwood would be someone you would want to take a look at. Gardner Webb, not so much. They still have an unsettled quarterback situation there. Charleston Southern has gotten a transfer in, but I'm gonna answer your question directly with Lindenwood. I think they're a team that really played well down the stretch last year. They won their last 7. And they play the typical schedule. They're going to Oklahoma State. The really difficult ones you got to play in September. They're doing a lot of that. I'm gonna probably put Lindenwood in that. It just seems like a really good situation for everybody there. A school that still gets a little bit of a trickle of St. Louis area talent, given where they are. I'm going to stick with Lindenwood on that answer.
Absolutely. I'm going to follow up with this one really quickly before I toss it back to Mo. I just want to ask this. It's kind of an overarching question. Obviously, NIL, the transfer portal has kind of changed the world of college athletics as we see it. How do you see that kind of affecting the OVC, obviously, with, holding on to your roster? It seems like every year, regardless of what level you're at, you're not only recruiting high school talent, but also trying to recruit your own roster, keep them stay. And also NIL has a factor to do with that as well. So kind of talk about how that affects the OVC in your eyes.
Well, most of the teams in the conference have a collective at some point in time, or actually a lot of that has actually happened in the last 6 months, really. In this calendar year, you've seen a lot of that happen. So that's into place. But let's be real. The bigger market the biggest market team and the biggest team that could really benefit from all this is Tennessee State. They're in the biggest market in the conference. Obviously, I mentioned Lindenwood on the periphery of St. Louis, but that's just, Lindenwood is not to St. Louis like Tennessee State could be to Nashville.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
We are going to go ahead and roll into our final segment, Top 5 Tuesday, as Wade and I give you the top 5 in some random category from week to week. This week, it is most unbreakable sports records. Plenty of meat on the bone, as someone likes to say. Wade, we'll start with you.
Man, well, if we're going to talk sports records, there's one guy that has virtually every record seemingly in basketball history. And you got to go back a ways. But Wilt Chamberlain, but it's a little bit different record than you might think. What if I told you that Wilt Chamberlain holds the career record for minutes played on average? And in one particular season, Wilt the Stilt averaged 50.4 minutes per game. Now, you might be wondering, how's that possible? They had 8 games and went to overtime. He only sat 8 minutes the entire season. So to put that into context, we talk about Tibbs. We talk about how he grinds his players into dust. Josh Hart led the NBA in minutes played this year for the Knicks at 37.6. Wilt the Stilt averaging over 50. He was playing a full game and then some. Sat 8 minutes all year. That will never be broken.
No.
Unless they extend the game in some capacity, which obviously seems unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think the Players Association would ever go for that. So yeah, you feel like that's a number that is gonna be there. I will warn you, my list may be a little baseball heavy, but we're gonna start right here. One manager, 162 early showers. Bobby Cox career thrown out of an entire season worth of games. With replay and that kind of thing, I don't think anybody ever gets close to that. So that's going to be my most unbreakable record. 162 tosses. Nah.
Yeah, you would be fired. You'd be fired before you even had a chance to sniff that record.
You'd either be fired or you would be fined out of the league. So yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
Number 2, Wade.
Number 2 for me, yeah, I'll go. I'll hold your hand and walk down the baseball aisle a little bit here, just because there's so many fun, obscure ones. But go way back in the annals of time. Old Hoss Radburn wins 60 games in a season. To put that into context, no player since 1900 has won more than 40, and that happened twice in like 1908 and 1911. So I feel pretty confident that old Hoss back in the day, his 60 wins is pretty safe.
Yeah, I think it is. Denver may not win. I mean, Colorado may not win 60 games as a team. So yeah, I think 60 wins by one pitcher is going to be in pretty good shape.
He started 73 games that year and completed all of them.
I'm going to see your old Hoss Radbourn, and I'm going to raise you the guy that they named the top pitching award for, Cy Young. 749 career complete games. You know, it's an event whenever anybody throws a complete game, singular, in this day and time. Cy Young went the distance 749 times over his career. That's my number 2. Number 3, sir?
Number 3 for me, man. We had a lot of fanfare about what Ovechkin did on the ice this year and breaking the single career goals record. But Wayne Gretzky has the points record in the NHL on lock forever and forever and ever. 2,857 career points. If you took away his goals, he would still hold the points record. He had 1,963 assists alone. Wayne Gretzky's points record, no matter who comes along. Ovechkin can assist himself. That's about the only shot you ever got to see in this record, bro. The great one stands alone.
That's about like Hank Aaron. If you took all 755 of his career home runs, he'd still have more than 3,000 hits.
Same concept, yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. I had this on my list, but once producer Mark signed off on it, Richard Petty has 200 NASCAR victories. Nobody ever touches that. We'll get Heather's input on that tomorrow when we have her on. But yeah, give me and Mark Richard Petty with his 200 career NASCAR wins at number 3. Number 4?
Number 4 for me, Cal Ripken, 2,632 consecutive games played. Sometimes we don't see a guy complete 10 games in a row, let alone 2,632. Similar moment of everybody's childhood growing up, and the Iron Man stands alone as well.
Absolutely. I'm always interested at the end of the year to see who's played in 162, and the list is really a short one. Connecticut won back-to-back men's basketball national championships a couple of years ago. No one has ever won more than 2 straight except UCLA, which won 7 from 1967 to 1973. Give me John Wooden's Bruins at number 4. Number 5, Wade.
Number 5, I'm staying in women's sports as well. The fabulous Moolah, ladies and gentlemen. No one will ever touch her WWF title record of 10,170 days as the women's champ. She began that reign in September of 56. She didn't relinquish the belt until July of 84. The fabulous Moolah, the female. Bruno Sammartino can't even sniff his men's title reign of the fabulous Moolah. Unbreakable.
That's amazing. What'd you say, from 56 to 84?
Yeah, just a casual, 10,170 days.
27 years as champion.
Very problematic out of the ring, but in the ring, you can't beat that record. There was the fabulous
pretty
Moolah.
Problematic in the ring too, huh? At number 5, let me have, and there's some really good ones here. I tell you what, I cannot not take Ricky Henderson's 1,406 career steals. I don't know that anybody will ever steal 1,000 bases again, let alone 1,400. Give me the best leadoff hitter in the history of the game and his 1,406 career stolen bases at number 5. It's the final segment of today's show, which means it's time for Top 5 Tuesday, as Wade and I bring you our top 5 on some topic that we come up with. A couple of nights ago, I was scrolling through TV channels and came across the ESPN 30 for 30 Youngstown Boys, which was the rise and fall of former Ohio State running back Maurice Clarett. And that kind of sparked today's top 5 sports figures falls from grace, because you can't fall much further than jail, I don't guess. And that's where Clarett wound up. But he was one of the first people I followed on Twitter, because I saw a tweet that he had put out: "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." And it just resonated with me, and nobody could speak to that quite like him, I don't think. So he's always been a fascinating individual to me, and how he's bounced back from that. So, but anyway, that's how we arrived at today's top 5 for Top 5 Tuesday. Sports figures falls from grace. And that edit was courtesy of one Wade Neely, because this was initially athletes falls from grace, but it's not just athletes that fall, right, Wade?
Not necessarily. And some of these, to your point about Mo Clarett there, I mean, they do have kind of at this point in time, a feel-good kind of turnaround, which is really kind of what life is about in general. You know, just when you think you're down and out, you can always, if you can see the light, you can kind of always get to it. And shout out to Clarett, too. I mean, I hate to give the devil his due, but my man runs down Sean Taylor on the interception in that national championship game. He was electric, and good to hear that he's kind of righted the ship there, so to speak. I'm gonna start number one though. I mean, this is about as classic as it could get. But if you were, living on planet Earth in the early 2000s, you had a Live Strong bracelet on your wrist. And you had that because you supported one of the feel-good stories of cancer survivor and one of the best cyclists ever to do it, 7 straight Tour de France's for Lance Armstrong. However, you had to kind of maybe put that to the side, blindly or otherwise. Doping allegations and, kind of the ringleader, talk about great documentaries, kind of the ringleader of one of the biggest doping programs or doping scandals kind of sports has ever seen. He was stripped of all of those. So Lance Armstrong's my number one. I don't know if I have my Live Strong bracelet. Did you rock one back in the day? Yeah, I had one.
I did not. I guess I was in the minority in that status, but no, I did not. And, it wasn't necessarily any foreshadowing or anything on my part. I just never did. You thought what he did in cycling was transformative, but man, that's a tough fall. Once you found out about everything else that was going on with him, for sure. My number one is probably obvious, but doesn't stop it from being my number one. You cannot play quarterback in the National Football League and run a dogfighting ring.
You can do one or the other.
You can do one or the other. You cannot do both. And you definitely can't do them across state lines, as Michael Vick unfortunately found out. And to your point about Mo Clarett, he's now the head coach at Norfolk State. So, I mean, what he did after that, I don't want to say incident, after that episode in his life is really kind of gratifying to watch. But man, he lost a lot, he gave up a lot, and it was all its own fault. So Michael Vick's my number one.
Good pull. He had it going on. There ain't no doubt. Up next for me, stay in football, stay in kind of somewhat obvious, but O.J. Simpson. There's like 35, maybe 40 documentaries, books, movies, etc., that have been written, and this whole case study explained ad nauseum. And I didn't necessarily grow up right in the thick of things. My real introduction to O.J. was watching the Naked Gun movies growing up. And when you learn more, just that sums this entire list up. You're at the height of your powers, and then, like you said earlier, you're in jail. Not just once, but twice, and one time stuck.
Yep. My number two, he wasn't in jail, but he's never been the same. Elbert Woods, they call him Tiger. It all fell apart for him with some off the course issues, we'll say, and then injuries behind that. So it's been unfortunate that we got a little bit robbed by what Tiger went through. But again, a lot of stuff he brought on himself as well. So Tiger is my number two. Number three.
Number three for me. There's off the field of competition issues, but really just in terms of in-ring issues. I just got done with Jim Lampley's book, and he had such a close relationship with the baddest man on the planet. And for those years in the late 80s, early 90s, it didn't look like a single soul on the planet would ever even land a shot on Mike Tyson. And then Buster Douglas comes in, and then poof, in the next 4 to 5 years, we get into the real kind of fall. This looks like a guy that was going to rewrite every single boxing record there was, and it kind of got thrown away just from in the ring stuff, obviously in addition to some other legal and controversies. But like most of these guys, has totally found himself in a new light here.
Yeah. I would imagine most folks could tell you where they were when they heard that Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. I know I could. My number 3, and you opened this up when we went past athletes, but Mike Price, you could refer to him as former Alabama coach, but it'd kind of be with an asterisk because he never actually coached a game due to a visit to the Gulf Coast and some establishments thereon. Mike Price is my number 3. It's pretty entertaining.
Man, that's a wild sliding doors situation there at Alabama. There ain't no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there are a lot of Alabama fans that probably couldn't tell you who Mike Price is. They don't realize that football existed before Nick Saban. But anyway.
Up
Number
next
4.
for me, as we close up here, Tanya Harding. I really don't got to say a whole lot more, but Tanya Harding was the star in the making and really kind of had it all, and then she didn't.
All right. My number 4, kind of like you cannot conduct a dogfighting ring and play quarterback in the NFL, you can't bring a gun into an NBA facility either. Ask Gilbert Arenas. Not a good idea.
He thought they were still the Washington Bullets. Him and then Javaris Crittenton on the other side, which that far more tragic. But Gilbert, reinventing himself. Used to love reading his blog back in the days. Fun player. Agent Zero. You can't do both.
No. Number 5, Wade.
Last for me, 30-time world champion, but not a great situation with Chris Benoit passing away. Ugly situation. Talk about a fall from grace.
Real quick, number 5, Pete Rose.
Rolling right along into our final segment here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. That is Calvin White. Wade Neely here, sitting in the saddle. Producer Mark Rogers making the magic happen behind the glass. Calvin, it is Top 5 Tuesday. We started the show by saying high school football and college football season imminently approaching. Kind of time to squeeze in one last moments of quality time, little bit of quality time with our loved ones. And that kind of got me thinking, what are some top 5 places to go on a date? And I mentioned before the break a minute ago, could be specific, could be something, that resonates with you deeply, or could be kind of generic. But in your guest appearance today, as part of our new Tuesday crew here, I'm going to let you start us off. What is your 1-1 selection for a date night, Mr. White?
Looks like you might be having some technical difficulties here.
We'll try and get Calvin back in. It's kind of, he's getting ready to hop back in. Calvin, you back?
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Not sure what happened, but we're glad that you're back because I was teeing you up, partner. You have the first overall selection for Top 5 Tuesday, and it's best places to go on a date.
Yeah, I had 5 picked out. The tough thing was just ranking them. But I think that I ranked all mine in just kind of in order of personal things that I've done with my girlfriend. So I think that at number 5, I'll put a concert. My girlfriend's big into live music. We saw Luke Combs at Nissan Stadium a couple years ago. That was really fun. We don't get the chance to go to many of those, but when we do, it's really fun. We like those, so I'll put that in my 5 spot.
I love it. Good pick. Wife and I just went to several shows last week, and a concert is tough to beat, especially, if you're into the same music, it can be extra special. So I love that pull there. My first selection, we're kind of an outdoors couple as well, me and the missus. So I'm going to say a hike. There's so many great parks, so many great spots to go in and around Middle Tennessee, especially. But obviously, if you go over to East Tennessee and beyond, some great spots. So give me a good hike, any kind of outdoor activity we're all about. That's my first pick.
Yeah, for my next pick, we've only done this one once, but we had a lot of fun. We went out to a vineyard, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, for our anniversary. We went out there, got a little food to eat, found a little picnic table out there, not in the woods, but in the trees. still in
Mhm.
civilization a little bit. So we had a lot of fun at that. I'll throw that in my 4 spot or my number 2 pick.
Good call there. Good pull there. Up next for me, Chip kind of put this bug in my ear, and I started thinking, and I kind of had to reorder my list. But the wife and I, we've only been a couple of times, but both nights we've gone, it has been fantastic. To bluegrass, kind of amateur bluegrass night at the Station Inn downtown. Haven't been to the Station Inn for any other real shows, but when they have kind of the amateur bluegrass folks that show up, it's really fun, and it's just the vibes there are pretty epic. So I'm going Station Inn number 2 for my pick. Number 3 for you.
My number 3 pick, my girlfriend's not big into sports or athletic activities, but this is the one thing I can get her out to do. I don't know if it even counts as an athletic activity, but we're big mini golf people. We used to, when we were in college at MTSU together, we would go over to the Go USA Fun Park, tee up some mini golf, play 18 holes over there, see who could win over 18 holes. So I'll throw that in my 3 spot.
That's a great spot. And yeah, I haven't tipped into the mini golf scene yet with the missus, but that might be getting added to the list. And you're right, there's some great spots in and around Middle Tennessee to scope that out. Number 3 for me, this is a somewhat cousin, I guess, if you will, of my first one. Especially in the summer, we like to get the tent, load up the dog, and go out for a camping trip. We'll also stay in a tiny home if we can or if we need to. But if you can load up the tent and kind of go camping, we're all about that. So many great state parks in Tennessee. We like to hit as many as we can in the summer. And so I'm going with a good old-fashioned camping trip for my big pick there.
Yeah, my second to last pick, I think I'll go with pottery. We've only done this maybe once or twice. But
yeah,
a couple months ago, back for her birthday, we went there's a place called the Pottery Room over here in Clarksville. You go and you pick out a little ceramic mold type thing, and then you paint it, and then they do all the things to get it ready for you. Then you go pick it back up. So I painted me a little glass dinosaur to pick up later.
I like that. And yeah, and the fact you get the experience there, but you also have something to kind of take home too. That's about as good as it gets in my mind.
Yes.
Good pull by you. Up next for me, this is a weird one, but it is in the food category. But the wife and I are big Jimmy John's fans, and it kind of, there's a way too long of a backstory, but Jimmy John's is kind of a quote unquote treat for us. And, some folks go out to these nice fancy restaurants. When we really want to go out and celebrate, we go to a Jimmy John's. And maybe next week I'll reveal the full story. But Jimmy John's is my number 4, kind of an off the beaten path date night, but a date night nevertheless for me and the wife.
Yeah, and my number 1 pick, we've done this a couple times. There's a place over here in Clarksville called Warehouse 41. It's a not an antique store, but it's kind of a thrift store. You go in there and you find a bunch of, old knickknacks and just random objects and things like that. I think I spent $70 in a antique / thrift store a couple weeks ago. I've started collecting these little MLB action figures from like the 80s and 90s. So I started collecting those. But we have a lot of fun doing that. I'll throw that in my number 1 spot.
Good pull there. Last pick for me. It could be a drive-in. It could be at the Belcourt. It could be at a regular theater. But just going to the movies. Wife and I check out a fair amount of movies at the theater. So that is always a fun time.
And here's the deal. I was channel surfing a couple of weeks ago, late one night, came across a Tom Petty concert and kind of stuck on it and didn't realize, how many of the songs that I managed to hear were songs that I was immediately familiar with and knew from my younger days. But it was just kind of cool to listen to it and see those back to back to back to back in one place like that. I'm not a huge Tom Petty fan, but didn't not listen when he came on the radio or again on this concert a few weeks back. So that was kind of what germinated. But with that said, Wade, I know that you might be a little chronologically impeded here, but I know that you are a music fan, so I figured this would be okay. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And Tom Petty, I will go obviously with the one that gets us going here. So much so that it is now finally included. It wasn't included in last year's game, but if you play college football 26, you will hear I Won't Back Down. So kind of in the theme of the top 5 here, that's got to be my number 1 selection. If you load it up and you pick the Florida, if you go to the Swamp there, you can hear Tom Petty. It is included this season.
That's cool. So one more reason to do this. That's your number 1. My number 1, I'm going to go with You Wrecked Me. And I think for football, that's probably not a bad pick either. So, yeah. Number 2, sir?
Number 2 for me, this is my personal favorite, so I'll pick this one. But Running Down a Dream is about as good as we get. I mean, you turn that on. Give me a long road trip. Give me a cross-country road trip. That's going to be on almost every playlist imaginable. And when it comes on, you're going to hit the pedal a little hard. You're going to get going. Give me Running Down a Dream for my number 2 there. Somewhere outside a rest stop in Oklahoma, I could really put some damage on the car there.
Where it's long and straight and flat. Yeah. Good luck with that. Give me Free Falling at number 2. Just kind of catchy, sticks in your head, kind of that earworm kind of thing. I like it. Free Falling. Number 3, Wade.
Number 3, wife would probably kill me if I didn't have American Girl on the list. It's not necessarily my favorite all-time Tom Petty track, but American Girl, when you hear, I mean, when that one comes on, you're not really skipping it. There's not a ton of Tom Petty skips necessarily, but it's not my personal cup of tea. But it is catchy and kind of one of his gold standards. So I'll go American Girl number 3 on the list.
Okay. At number 3, I'm going to go with Breakdown. Go ahead and give it to me, girl. Yeah. Again, so many of his songs, no skips, like you said, but it's just really catchy. Stays with you. Give me Breakdown at number 3. Number 4.
Number 4, later in the catalog, but Won't Back Down. Obviously, another kind of classic. Came out in '89, lead single on Full Moon Fever. And so that's another one of my personal faves and kind of one that, if I'm on Spotify, I'm a big Spotify. I'll search for a song and then just let it sort out the playlist for me. But that's one that I probably would queue up in the search myself. I'll listen to it if it comes on any other sort of playlist, but that's one that I'm usually hunting. So give me I Won't Back Down up next on the list.
Okay. Number 4, I'm going to go with Mary Jane's Last Dance. Probably one of his later hits, but again, just catchy, stays with you. I like it. Give me that. Mary Jane's Last Dance.
I mean, that's kind of, that's depending on our list, that's number 1 for a lot of folks. That just kind of the seminal song, not necessarily a karaoke favorite. I have heard it sung a time or two, but
really,
it's up there.
I don't know how karaoke friendly Tom Petty is.
It's a rarity. You got to really be an aficionado, or at least fancy yourself an aficionado to try and pull it off. We know how that kind of goes at karaoke. So, not the best of selections
you get
for his
a little
catalog, but yeah,
overambitious there.
Right. You think you got it, but you maybe necessarily don't.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, Wade.
Last one for me. Don't Come Around Here No More. Got some psychedelic kind of synthy tones. Which is always kind of good if you're if you're listening to Tom Petty, you're kind of into it for the psychedelic synthy tones. Let's be honest, you're feeling some type of way if you're seeking his music out. So give me that. There's a little, some Stevie Nicks kind of references in there too. So I'm on board with Don't Come Around Here No More to round out a nice little tidy list, I think, here.
That is a nice little tidy list. At number 5, I'm going to go with You Got Lucky. Again, I don't think you can go wrong with anything Tom Petty. And I just didn't realize how much his stuff resonated until I was sitting there late one night and came across that on, I don't even remember what channel it was, but nice concert. Wish I'd been there. Give me You Got Lucky at number 5, and that rounds out our top 5 Tom Petty songs. Go pull something up on Spotify or on YouTube Music or wherever it is you get your music, and check him out. The late, great Tom Petty out of Gainesville, Florida. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports today.